Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on MTV Sports. My name is Ravi Gamage.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We start off with tonight's headlines.
Five persons arrested over the haul of heroin that was seized by the customs. 22 forest fires reported from across 4 districts. Stash of chili powder and canned fish worth over 10 million rupees and not suitable for consumption discovered. Minister Dilan Pereira speaking in Parliament says that he can no longer work with the chairperson of the Social Security Board. Demonstration in Rakwana over the molestation of a minor.
Starting off with tonight's news, United People's Freedom Alliance parliamentarian Nimal Vijay Singha, who was charged with assaulting a Gramani Ladari officer, appeared in court today. He was later released on a cash bail of 1,500 rupees and a surety of 100,000 rupees.
Parliamentarian Nimal Vijay Singha appeared before the Mawatagama Pilassa Magistrates Court this morning. He was charged with assaulting the 617 Division Gramani Ladari of Ambakote Rudigama in Kurunegala while the Gramani Ladari was on duty. According to the Gramani Ladari, he was assaulted by the MP because he objected to the illegal felling of a jack tree by a group of persons in Ambakote Rudigama.
It was just a verbal altercation. I denied that there was an attack on the Gramani Ladari. It was said that I had fled the area. There is no need for me to flee. I did not report to the police because it was late.
Yesterday, when Newsfirst made inquiries from the police media spokesperson, he said that the MP was on the run.
I have completed the investigation and OIC Mawatagama and the team has visited the residence of the MP, but he has been absconding since the occurrence of the incident. We are going to arrest him and facts have been reported to the court. Further investigations are being continued. We are not going to mitigate the nature of the offences and we are going to take stern action against the wrongdoer.
The case will be taken up again before the magistrate on the 25th of August. Meanwhile, the owner of the land on which the jack tree is situated was arrested by the police yesterday and was produced in court today. The police said that another 2 persons are due to be arrested for allegedly threatening the Gramani Ladari.
The director of the private apparel company which brought down a container from which a haul of heroin was seized at the customs container yard in Orugodavatta yesterday has been arrested. Deputy Customs Director UG Kulatilaka said the suspect was apprehended this morning following preliminary investigations.
It has been confirmed that the container from which the heroin was seized was brought down by a private apparel import company located on Maliban Street in Colombo 11. Deputy Customs Director UG Kulatilaka says a total of 5 suspects have been arrested in connection with the find. The street value of the heroin, which was brought down from Karachi, Pakistan, has been stated as 660 million rupees. Customs media spokesperson Customs Superintendent Leslie Garmini stated that 93.76 kilograms of the narcotic were found inside the container. The heroin had been concealed inside 3 moulding machines. It has also been revealed that the container in question made port in Sri Lanka from Karachi on the 6th of this month. This is the largest haul of heroin seized by customs this year. While this is the 5th incident this year where customs officials have made such a find on 2 separate occasions this month, the police seized 18 kilograms of heroin in Banathamulla and Madivala. The value of the heroin seized by the police has been stated as being over 120 million rupees. Police statistics show that 140 kilograms of heroin have been seized this year.
UPFA Western Provincial Councillor Hirunika Premachandra expressed these views on the seizure of the haul of heroin yesterday.
This
is a very saddening situation. They're trying to destroy the country's youth, those who are waiting to take over the future.
Who is bringing these narcotics to Sri Lanka? Who is spreading it around the country? The whole country knows who the smugglers are. My father was assassinated because he spoke out against narcotics. It is those who are connected to his killing that are spreading narcotics in the country. Thereby, I believe, and I make an appeal of His Excellency the President, the leader of the country, the only person who has done and can do something for the welfare of the youth. I ask him to inform the police that they should be more alert with regard to this. If this continues in the near future, our country will not be identified as a pearl of Asia, but as a narcotics spear of Asia. Therefore, I appeal of His Excellency the President to take steps to address this.
හින්දා මම ඉතාමත් ආයාචනා සාගතව අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටින මේ සඳහා පියවරක්.
A suspect wanted in connection with molesting a child in Rakwana, Ratnapura recently has been remanded until the 30th of this month. However, protests were held in several areas today, claiming that the suspect had not been arrested. Protests were organised in Rakwana, Hatton, Deniaya, Muskelia, Bhagavantalava and Norwood today. Estate workers in these areas had also stayed away from work in protest. A demonstration was held in the Rakwana town centre this morning. Our reporter says the main street in the Rakwana town was blocked as a result of the protest. The protest also disrupted the flow of traffic on the Rakwana Ratnapura, Rakwana Kalawana and Rakwana Deniaya roads.
The Rakwana police have not taken any legal action yet. Even though they have said they will, they have done nothing.
Ceylon Workers' Congress councillor of the Subramanian Provincial Council, K. Ramachandran, who visited the scene, also faced public protest. Police Special Task Force personnel were deployed to the Rakwana town in addition to the police to beef up security.
The ASP came yesterday and asked for 24 hours. He said they would arrest the criminal within 24 hours. The man was arrested at the Kahawat police at 8:30 this morning.
The protesters dispersed this evening. Another demonstration to protest this incident was held blocking the Hatton Bhagavantalava main road. The group later arrived at the police station and staged a demonstration there. A protest was also held outside the Norwood police station. The group later arrived at the Norwood junction where they protested for about 2 hours, blocking the Hatton Muskelia and Hatton Bhagavantalava roads. A demonstration was also held at the Malyapu junction in Hatton today to protest the incident.
Now returning to one of our headline stories tonight. Forest fires have broken out in 22 reserves in 4 districts. Assistant Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodipilli, says forest fires have been reported from Polonnarua, Nuwara, Badulla and Monaragala.
50 acres of the Kaudulla Reserve were consumed by a forest fire that broke out in the Suhadapura area in Tissapura, Madirigiriya. Our reporter says that the police, Civil Defence Force Divisional Secretariat officials and residents launched a joint effort to combat the flames. Police and area residents near the Maoe Reserve on the banks of the Parakrama Samudra also launched a joint effort to fight a forest fire there. While they succeeded in dousing the flames after 3 hours of intense labour, over 10 acres of the reserve were consumed in the blaze. Four forest fires were reported in the Haliala area, which comes under the purview of the Badulla Divisional Secretariat. Our reporter says that fires broke out in the Unugolavatta, Dikwellavatta, Ambavakavatta and Mahavattagama reserves in Haliala. The district's Disaster Management Centre noted that about 100 acres of vegetation were destroyed in the fires. Meanwhile, a report at the scene says the forest fire that broke out in the Kuruvikotta Kanda in Bipila is continuing to spread unabated. The fire has already consumed over 25 acres of forest land. Forest fires have been reported from reserves including Doropoda, Nilgala, Puakpale, Arangala in Bibila this month alone. A forest fire broke out in the Varanagama area in Monragala this afternoon. a fire which broke out on the Ranmithitanda mountain in Hingurukaduwa, Munragala at about 8 o'clock last night had burnt out by this morning. 13 forest fires have been reported from the Munragala area within the past week. The District Disaster Management Centre has voiced suspicion over the cause of these fires. The Disaster Management Centre noted that reserves are being set ablaze by individuals with personal agendas. Officials at the District Disaster Management Centre warned that if the opportunistic human activity that is taking place in many areas of the district at present, owing to prevailing dry weather conditions, is not put a stop to, a far graver situation will have to be faced in the near future.
28 preschool children from Kathragama were hospitalized today following a wasp attack. The preschool is located at the Mallikarama Viharaya in Kathragama.
The wasps formed after their nest on a mango tree at the grounds of the Viharaya was disturbed. The preschool students were admitted to the Kathragama Divisional Hospital. The wasps, who chased after panicked parents who carried their children and ran to the hospital, had also stung several persons at the hospital. The district medical officer attached to the Kathragama Divisional Hospital, Sarath Rajapura, said 3 men and 16 women were treated for stings.
The wasps stung people and chased them right up to the hospital. This posed a major problem for us at the hospital. We had to shuttle patients in the outpatients department into various rooms and lock the doors.
2 children and 2 women were in critical condition after being stung repeatedly by the wasps, were transferred to the Tissa Maharama based hospital. The DMO noted that if the wasp nests on the grounds of the preschool, the adjacent Kathragama Mahavidyalaya and Kathragama Divisional Hospital are not removed, a far more serious situation could be experienced in the future.
At this very moment, there are 2 wasp nests on the hospital grounds. We have also been informed that there is a wasp nest at the nearby school. This is a major problem for us. If the wasps swarm at the school, then the small hospital here in Kathragama will not be able to handle the number of patients.
Opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe sought a clarification from the government in Parliament today on permission being granted for the establishment of an aircraft maintenance centre in Trincomalee. Wickremesinghe further queried as to why Trincomalee had been selected as the location for the centre.
This project is a good thing. We intend to go ahead with this. However, it has not been mentioned anywhere that it will be established in Trincomalee. There has been no statement regarding the location. Honourable Speaker, when selecting a location, we have to pick an area where jets can land. There are only 3 such locations in our country: Katunayaka, Mattala and Trincomalee. The government will have to consider these 3 locations and select the most suitable one.
Sri Lanka has a small air force. We only have 44 Chinese aircraft. We have the Chengdu 5 F-7 Air Guard fighters, and we have the MiG-21s. China stopped production of this aircraft in 2013. What more do we have to take from them? There are about 12 Y-12 aircraft. We have repaired about 30 Y-12 aircraft in Sri Lanka. We only bring down the engines from there. Therefore, I do not know what advantages we can gain from this. Usually, it does not even cost $1 million annually to maintain this.
A large sum of money is being spent on renovating and maintaining this equipment. We see the spending of those funds here instead of abroad, and the training that it will give our youth as a suitable advantage.
We have all the training here except for replacing the engines. I wish to mention this to the minister. I have been told that it only costs 1 or 2 million per annum. So there is no reason to obtain a major loan for 20 years. The other factors is that jets can land here in Katunayaka, Ratmalana and Hingurangoda, not in Trincomalee. The 4th is Mattala.
Meanwhile, Minister of Foreign Employment, Promotion and Welfare Dilan Pereira clarified in Parliament today that there are no plans afoot to introduce a pension scheme for Sri Lankan expatriate workers in Korea via the Social Security Board. The minister issued this clarification in response to a question posed by MP Anura Kumara Disanayake in Parliament today, based on a Newsfirst report that preparations are being made to introduce such a scheme.
On the 14th of July 2014, on the noon bulletin on Sirasa TV, a report was aired that attention has been turned towards implementing a pension scheme for Sri Lankan expatriate workers in South Korea. Sumana Aryadasa made this statement on this report, and I quote, "There are about 50,000 Sri Lankans working in Korea. The Korean government takes a portion of their wages as their contribution and a contribution from their employers as social security. They spend this money hastily. They do not think about the future. Thereby, we have initiated a program to go to Korea, hold discussions with the factory owners and get this money for the Social Security Board to establish a pension scheme for them when they reach the age of 60. We have spoken about this." Unquote. I wonder why Sumana Aryadasa worries for these youth in Korea even more than their parents do. It must be especially mentioned that the Social Security Fund is bankrupt. Honourable Speaker, her statement shows an effort to replenish this fund by stealing from the working Sri Lankan youth in Korea. We do not know on what basis the chairperson of the Social Security Board has made such a statement. This money belongs to the individuals. Thereby, Honourable Speaker, I must state clearly that this is an effort to instigate a non-existent issue. This was telecast on the noon bulletin on Sirasa, but last evening they did justice to us on last night's bulletin by allowing the Foreign Employment Bureau to tell our side of the story. We are grateful for that. I must state clearly that we do not have the right to infringe on this right of the Sri Lankan workers in South Korea, and neither will we let anyone infringe on this right. If Sumana Aryadasa wishes to develop the work of her board, then she can use other schemes. But for as long as I hold this ministerial portfolio, I will not let Sumana Aryadasa lay a hand on the funds of our dear workers in South Korea.
Former Indian Union Minister and Chairman of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Strategic Action Committee, Dr. Subramanian Swamy says India under Narendra Modi will be far more supportive of Sri Lanka's position in the UN Human Rights Council. Dr. Swamy expressed these views at a seminar held at the BMICH in Colombo last evening.
Here on the panel,
a visiting Bharatiya Janata Party delegation led by Dr. Subramanian Swamy participated in the panel discussion India under Modi, Relevance for the Region and the World, organized by the Bandaranayake Centre for International Studies. The event saw the participation of several prominent personalities including government and opposition politicians, civil society, commentators, social activists and journalists.
Relevance of this paradigm change of Mr. Modi become Prime Minister will be felt in the SAARC countries in particular, and in particular in Sri Lanka. Your President was honorably invited to be present in the swearing-in ceremony of his become Prime Minister. Your Foreign Minister has been assured that we will never agree to making human rights investigation as a punitive or as a intrusive weapon. And therefore, you will find that Mr. Modi will give first priority to the SAARC countries. And therefore, I think in the United Nations Human Rights Commission, India would be far more supportive of Sri Lanka's position than ever before.
Speaking further, Dr. Swamy made the following remarks.
If you look around the world, no country has had the kind of clear success in eliminating terrorism as you have. Today, even Tamils up in north admit that at least they know when their children go to school, they will return back in the night. When their husbands go to work, they will return back in the night. There's more to be done. I'm not saying it's not been done. This is for you to do. And if our friendship develops sufficiently, we will give you ideas on what could be done, what could not be done, whether you accept it or not.
The National Freedom Front has requested the President to make amendments to the Gazette notice on the appointment of a panel of international experts to advise the Presidential Commission to investigate into complaints regarding missing persons. The NFF points out that the appointment of such persons to advise the Presidential Commission to investigate into complaints regarding missing persons may encourage international interference in the future.
With an election looming for the Uva Provincial Council, Newsfirst decided to tour the province, inquiring into the needs of the people there. On the first part of our series Before the Ballot yesterday, we looked at the dire water shortage being faced by the people in some areas of the Monaragala district. Tonight, we head towards Bibila.
We captured this footage on one of the roads we came across while travelling towards Bibila on the Batiklo-Bibila main road. We visited the village of Kanagivalla to learn the story behind these black flags. The villagers have expressed their protest in this fashion before the ballot amid the stresses they are facing owing to a myriad of unresolved problems. One of the major challenges facing these people who rely on agriculture for their livelihoods is wild elephant incursions. Elephants regularly cause harm to their corn storages.
එතකොට මේ වතුර ප්‍රශ්නෙත් එක්ක මේ ඉරිගු වගා කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒකට බාධාවක් මොනවා හරි වෙනවද? මහ කන්නේ වගේ තමයි අර වැහි කන්නේ අල්ලලා තමයි මේ ඉරිගු වගා කරන්නේ.
වැස්ස වැඩි වුණාම ඒත් නරක වෙලා යනවා. ඌරන්ගෙන් අලින්ගෙන් සියලුම සත්තුන්ගෙන් හානි වෙනවා.
මේ බඩේ ඉරු කල්ලුණා මෙතෙක් කාලයක් තියා ඉන්නේ මේකට හරියට මිලක් නැති නිසා මිලේ ඇයිදෝ නැද්දෝ කියද්දි මැහිවල දාන තමයි දැන් අපි ඉන්නේ. ඉතින් මාත් ආයේ මේකෙන් කීයක් කර හොයාගෙන තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ.
Corn farmers reap their harvest in February and March. Farmers who obtain loans to cultivate corn use about 85% of the yield from the harvest season to repay their debt. While elephants ravage their crops, these farmers sell their corn on the market for a small price, which continuously fluctuates. According to these farmers, they have sold corn at 35 to 36 rupees a kilogram this season. When we buy a packet of kernels from the shop, it costs 6,000, 5,500 or 4,500 rupees. Various varieties fetch various prices. The price of corn in the shops is much higher. We supply it in the same state. Since we held on to it for so long, we were at least able to sell it for 26 rupees a kilo. An elephant has shifted away the roofing tiles over there and has struck its trunk and eaten the corn. You can see this. While we are waiting to sell it, the animals are feasting on it. Wild elephants had come to this location several days ago and eaten the harvested corn. Area residents claim the elephants from the Nilgala reserve are encroaching on their village. This is just one of many problems faced by the villagers of Kanagivalla. More tomorrow on Before the Ballot.
The judges of the Civil Appellate High Court of Colombo, Justices H.C.J. Madhavala and Leon Senaviratne, granted leave to appeal against the order of the District Judge of Colombo delivered on 20th June 2014, issuing an interim injunction restraining Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited from alienating the land situated at number 330 TB Jayamawatha, Colombo 10.
Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, in their petition to the Civil Appellate High Court, stated that the Amazon Management Group instituted an action in the District Court of Colombo seeking an interim injunction preventing Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited from alienating the property at number 330 TB Jayamawatha, Colombo 10. In the petition, it was stated that the Amazon Management Group grossly suppressed and misrepresented and distorted material facts, and Mr. Ofer Miretsky, who signed the agreement on behalf of the Amazon Management Group, is not a director or a shareholder of the Amazon Management Group, and therefore he had no legal status to sign the agreement in issue. In the petition, it is also stated that the district judge had failed to consider that the Amazon Management Group has not furnished any material whatsoever to prove that Harrison's Colombo Limited was attempting to alienate or transfer the land in issue, and the district judge erroneously and wrongfully came to the finding that the Amazon Group has not suppressed or misrepresented any material facts, and court also had failed to evaluate and consider the facts and circumstances of the case, and the district judge has failed to appreciate the balance of convenience, and also the order of the district judge is inequitable and manifestly unfair in the facts and circumstances of this case and contrary to the law and principle of injunctive reliefs. Having heard the lengthy submissions made by President's Counsel S.A. Parathalingam for Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, and also having perused the petition, affidavit and documents annexed thereto, court being satisfied that a prima facie case has been established by Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, granted leave to appeal against the order of the learned district judge delivered on 20th June 2014 and called for the case record of the original court. President's Counsel S.A. Parathalingam with Attorney at Law Nishkan Parathalingam, instructed by Attorney at Law G.G. Arupragasam, appeared on behalf of Harrison's Colombo Limited and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited.
The Australian government has argued its international obligations of non-refoulement of returning asylum seekers to countries they have fled in fear of persecution do not apply to interceptions outside Australian territorial waters. The Guardian website reports that government defence documents filed to the High Court case examining the interception of more than 150 asylum seekers who left southern India in early June reveals that the decision not to allow the asylum seekers to be transferred to Australia was taken by the National Security Committee. The committee in question is tasked with major international security issues of strategic importance to Australia and chaired by the Prime Minister.
The Australian government is arguing it holds the power to detain the asylum seekers whose boat was intercepted in Australia's contiguous zone near Christmas Island under the Maritime Powers Act. According to The Guardian, the defence also concedes, as lawyers acting for the asylum seekers had argued, that the intercepted asylum seekers being held at sea by a government border protection vessel have been split up, but it says they are allowed 3 hours to move around the vessel in daylight. It had previously been reported that there were 153 persons on board the boat that left Pondicherry in Tamil Nadu, southern India, but the defence shows there were in fact 157. Correspondent for The Guardian, Oliver Laughlin, elaborated further.
It was filed to a directions hearing at the High Court, and the hope was that the judge would have made a ruling by now, but unfortunately both parties didn't come to an agreement on what the exact terms of the case are. So we're hoping to hear where the case is going to end up and what the terms of reference will be tomorrow afternoon. The Immigration Minister, Scott Morrison, the Australian Immigration Minister, Scott Morrison, has headed over to India, we understand, to talk to his counterparts over there. There's a lot of speculation here that is to do with trying to send the people on board this boat back to India, which is where it left from back on June.
Welcome back to the news. Do you recall what the Colombo fort looked like in 2012? Colombo, a city which has become a hive of activity where lives move faster than time, is being rejuvenated as an attractive capital city. In addition to the various attractions that are being constructed across the city, a planned city is also being designed.
තිස්වසරක යුද්ධය නිමාවීමත් සමගම සංවර්ධනයේ මූලිකම
Following the end of the 30-year war, we selected the Colombo Fort as a primary project in the development drive. We initiated plans at first to turn Fort, which is a commercial hub, into a tourist hub as well.
සංචාරක කේන්ද්‍රස්ථානයක් බවට පත් කරන්න අවශ්‍ය මූලික සැලසුම් සකස් කරා.
The Colombo fort, which has been reconstructed as per these initial plans, is a sight to behold today. The Urban Development Authority and the armed forces engage in a task of giving Colombo a new face using 3 methods. Renovating old buildings, introducing new uses for these buildings to turn them into tourist attractions, reconstructing dilapidated business establishments with the support of their owners. This new phase of Colombo also includes measures like removing road barricades to ensure free flowing traffic. It is important for both residents of Colombo and visitors to our capital city to realize that sustaining this beauty depends on their activity.
Still in local news, the Director General of the Pensions Department claims that large-scale financial fraud has taken place within his department. Sunil Hettiarach says the fraud has been uncovered and that investigations are underway.
The Director General of the Pensions Department, Sunil Hettiarach, notes that there are 538,000 members of the Pensions Department at present. He adds that about 4,000 other institutions liaise with his department in making pension payments to these members. The internal workings of the Pensions Department are a complex system. Various incidents of fraud and misuse of funds occur within the system. Recently, we were fortunate enough to uncover such fraud. We were able to uncover that a massive sum of money had been misused, meaning that these funds had not gone to the hands of the pensioners but to other persons instead. In most instances, such misuse occurs on the part of public officials. The Director General of the Pensions Department added that his department is in the process of employing modern technology to mitigate such incidents.
The Surveyor General's Department commenced work today to allegedly acquisition for the army a plot of land owned by a woman in Mursaville, Jaffna. Surveying was halted when the landowner and area residents protested.
The woman's family had objected when officials of the Surveyor's Department commenced work to survey the land for it to be acquired. Representatives of the Tamil National Alliance and Tamil National People's Front also participated in the protest.
We do not accept the surveying of this land. They are going to use the acquisitioned lands to establish army headquarters. A security forces headquarters was established here prior to this without the permission of the landowners. When this headquarters was opened several months ago, we saw through the media the statements that were made by senior army officers and the government. The army says that they purchased this land. The mother has the deed in her hands. They faced many problems since their family lands were lost. We protested today when the Surveyor General's Department commenced surveying the land. The department which left today could return on another day with police protection. We protested as much as we could.
The Assistant Superintendent of Police in Kodikamam, who visited the location later, asked that a complaint be lodged with the police.
When Newsfirst made inquiries regarding this incident, the Director of the Media Centre of the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development, Brigadier Ruwan Wanigosuriya, said the headquarters of the 52nd Brigade was established at the location of a former LTTE training camp. He added that the landowner would receive compensation for her land in the future. Brigadier Wanigosuriya added that the woman was claiming ownership of this land while being in possession of a permanent residence in Punkuduvitu.
An event was held at the Sir John Kothalaula Defence University today under the auspices of Senior Presidential Advisor Milinda Murugoda.
The gifting of books and research materials by the Murugoda Trust took place at the General Sir John Kothalaula Defence University.
I have noticed in other countries, in other universities, other countries, there is a lot written about contemporaries. Contemporaries writing about contemporaries long before they are dead. And I have been quite surprised, given the culture here in Sri Lanka, of how cogently and how positively they write about the qualities, the academic qualities, the personal qualities of they are contemporaries. We should be happy that Sri Lankans have achieved these heights through hard work, dedication and talent.
The Consumer Affairs Authority seized goods unfit for human consumption worth close to 10.1 million rupees today. Among the goods seized were chili, pepper, canned fish and soya meat. The Consumer Affairs Authority seized 15,000 kilograms of pepper and chili which had been produced using various dyes and biscuit flakes at a grinding mill in Sedavatta, Vellampitiya. The stock of seized goods was valued at close to 4.5 million rupees. Meanwhile, in a raid carried out on a house in Batagama South in Kandana, Consumer Affairs Authority officials seized 32,000 tins of soya meat and canned fish which were unfit for human consumption. The CAA said the goods were valued at 6.5 million rupees.
Israel has pummeled Gaza for a 14th day, raising the Palestinian death toll to more than 580 as ceasefire efforts continue in Doha and Cairo.
Despite growing calls for a halt to 2 weeks of fighting, the Israeli offensive killed 28 members of a single family in one strike yesterday, another 11 people in an attack on a high-rise building, and 4 others in the shelling of a hospital.
With airstrikes and shelling raining down across the besieged coastal enclave, Israel's army said 7 of its soldiers had been killed, bringing the Israeli toll to 25 troops and 2 civilians in the bloodiest Gaza conflict since 2009. An Israeli airstrike killed at least 11 members of the same family while they were having Ramadan's iftar meal.
The massacre today is committed against children and women who were sitting at the dinner table. A Yard jet strike hit the Al Izara building in the center of Gaza City. The building was destroyed over their heads, and here are 11 martyrs. 4 of them are adults and 7 are children. As you can see, they have deadly injuries. Israel today committed a Holocaust in Gaza without caring about the international law.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an interview with NBC Nightly News, said Israel was right to send soldiers into Gaza.
We have to defend ourselves. We try to do it with the minimum amount of force or with targeting military targets as best as we can, but we'll act to defend ourselves. No country can live like this.
However, clashes erupted between Israeli soldiers and Palestinian youth in the West Bank cities of Bethlehem and Ramallah. Youth threw stones at an Israeli watchtower in Bethlehem, and Israeli soldiers fired tear gas at the protesters. After early exchanges of stones and tear gas near a checkpoint around the city of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
In other international news,
the senior separatist leader, Alexander Borodai, has handed over black boxes from flight MH17 downed over eastern Ukraine to Malaysian experts in the city of Donetsk. Colonel Mohammad Sakri of the Malaysian National Security Council said the 2 black boxes were in good condition. The rebels also announced a ceasefire within a 10-kilometer radius around the crash site to allow international investigators to safely access the vast area where the Malaysia Airlines flight was downed.
Satellite photos are released showing the Malaysian Airlines MH17 crash site in Ukraine. The July 17 shooting down of the Boeing 777 by Russian separatists has shocked the world. Officials say 298 people died in the crash, many from countries including the Netherlands, Malaysia, Australia and Britain. Over half of the victims of the crash were Dutch citizens, and Ukraine said it was willing to allow Dutch officials to coordinate the investigation. The UN Security Council has condemned the downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 over Ukraine and called for an international probe into the incident in a unanimously adopted resolution. All 15 member states voted to pass the Australia proposed resolution condemning in the strongest terms the crash of the Malaysian plane. Meanwhile, Russia has called for the investigation into the downing of the plane to be led by the international community and not Ukraine.
We've been calling for an investigation led by ICAO, actually. The reason for that is that the rebels, as we understand, do not trust the government of Kiev. That's why they were reluctant to hand over the black boxes to the Ukrainian side, because they are afraid that the evidence will be tampered with.
A train carrying the remains of many of the victims arrived in Ukrainian government territory today. The train carrying around 200 body bags arrived in the eastern city of Kharkiv, which is in Ukrainian government hands. The bodies will then be taken back to the Netherlands to be identified. The train left the crash site on Monday after the Malaysian Prime Minister agreed with the separatists for recovered bodies to be handed over to authorities in the Netherlands, where 2/3 of the victims came from. The handover and reports by international investigators of improved access to the wreckage of the airliner 4 days after it was shut down came amid calls for broader sanctions against Russia for its support for the rebellion.
And now in sports news.
2 Sri Lankans are on the verge of losing their opportunity to compete at the Commonwealth Games.
This situation was confirmed to Sports First by the head of the Sri Lankan contingent, Nishantha Piyasena.
The 20th Commonwealth Games will see its opening ceremony being held in Glasgow, Switzerland tomorrow, with over 4,500 athletes from 71 nations competing to bring honour and glory to their home countries. Head of the Sri Lankan delegation, Nishantha Piyasena, speaking to Sports First, said high jump athlete Mandula Kumara has not arrived in Glasgow as he has not received his visa. In addition, boxer Anusha Kodituaku and ruggerite Yoshita Rajapaksa have not arrived in Glasgow owing to injury. Thousands will converge on Glasgow for the opening ceremony tomorrow, and according to reports, competitors from over 25 nations have already arrived in the host city. Meanwhile, a suspected outbreak of norovirus at the Commonwealth Games Athletes Village has been brought under control. The contagious diarrhea and vomiting bug had spread to 53 workers since reports first emerged on Wednesday. But Commonwealth Games CEO David Grevenberg said the situation was not a problem and is being dealt with.
The third in line to the British throne, Prince George, turns 1 today.
That's right, Nicola. As our viewers may recall, a year ago today, Newsfirst extensively covered the birth of the new royal, the firstborn of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Prince William and Kate Middleton.
And Ravi, the royal family has released these pictures of the prince on the eve of his birthday.
We take our leave tonight with these images.
Good night.